How influential is it, Kara? Because I always assume now I'm on Twitter. I have a good time on there, and it's useful to find news and things like that. But I never assumed it was that big of a deal. It's not a huge percentage of society that's even on it. I didn't really understand how influential it was until I saw all the communists freaking out about Elon Musk buying it. How influential is the place?
Exactly. And you hear that argument, oh, the greater majority of the population of America aren't on Twitter, so it doesn't matter that much. No, this is the where the frankly, the politicians, celebrities, commentators, people get their ideas. When Ron Klain, the chief of staff of the White House, is constantly on Twitter getting ideas from, leftists and activists, that makes it important. I like to say things like, you might not be interested in Twitter, but Twitter is interested in you. There are people who probably have never been on the platform who've frankly lost their jobs because of Twitter activist campaigns that have gone on. If you look at some Target banning books last year, they did so because people with no followers on Twitter kicked up a stink about it, and books were ripped from the platform. So I think this platform has inordinate influence, especially on the tastemakers of our day in the White House, etc. So when people are on it, it actually matters that it is going to be wrested away from that ideological monopoly we talked about.
Okay, how much power? I mean, you mentioned Google and Apple control basically all of the App Store stuff, so they can just crush him, right? With the snap of their fingers, they can virtually smash Elon Musk into the ground, correct?
That's the idea, and not just that, but Amazon too. So you'll remember during the whole Parler saga, it was Amazon Web Services that withdrew their cloud hosting services from Parler. So Twitter runs on AWS as well. So if Apple and Google, if people still just use Twitter on their desktops, then Amazon could pull the plug on Twitter as well. So he's not safe, even if he can vanquish the Apple and the Google sort of going to war with him as well. There been word that he's actually going to make this Tesla phone. He said he hopes it doesn't come to it, but if Apple, Google, Amazon, and the likes work together against him, then he might have no choice than to get into that business, alas.
Okay, what's app neutrality?
App neutrality, that's actually a good question. In terms of, I guess, innovation and people sort of being able to use tools that are, have different perspectives, I would say making sure that those applications are able to be used as neutral tools. I think that would be something to think about when it comes to app neutrality.
Carol, will you handicap this for me? Because I'm a cynic by nature. You're probably not as much, and you probably shouldn't be, but I'm a cynic by nature. I have always thought, hey, Elon Musk buys Twitter. If he's really going to go for free speech, there's no way the powers that be are going to actually allow even the richest man in the world to do it. Whether it's Apple, Google, government, someone's going to smash him. Or is he going to win?
I wouldn't bet against Elon, but you have the Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary herself, saying we're keeping an eye on Twitter. And a lot of these tech companies are if they fear regulation, they fear it from the left. So the way that they've sort of worked hand in glove with the Biden administration to police the speech of Americans, I would not be surprised if those kind of nudges were coming from the White House to, work in tandem to I would say try to fight Elon Musk to the best of their ability. But again, richest man in the world, crazy like a fox. So I think that he has some cards up his sleeve, and I wouldn't be surprised if he played them.
I mean, are you concerned about Elon Musk says there's more and more subscribers coming online. Are you concerned about that? And what tools do you have? Who is it at the White House that is really keeping track of this?
So look, this is something that we're certainly keeping an eye on.
It's time for the states to start taking an out-of-control federal government a lot more seriously than most of them currently are. Thankfully, there is somebody out there who's been outstanding on this, and we've had nobody be outstanding on this. Joining me now, current Attorney General of the great state of Missouri, but he won't be there long, No, they didn't kick him out. They're sending him to the United States Senate. Thank God for that, because all of our senators, well, most of them suck. Joining me now, Attorney General Eric Schmidt. Why does the federal government feel so comfortable speaking to us this way now? I'm not that old. I don't remember presidents ever speaking this way to us.
Well, I think the left, the truth is, which is now dominating the Democrat Party, really hates the First Amendment. They like controlling the narrative, which is why you see this reaction to Elon Musk buying Twitter is so threatening, because what they really want to do is, it's about power and control. And if somebody has a dissenting opinion, they want to cast them out. This is no longer about the free exchange of ideas or freedom of speech, and people, in the public square, people get to have their say, and the First Amendment has always been this kind of pressure release valve for our country. It's the beating heart of the Constitution. But now you have one political party that views that as dangerous, and they'll label anybody that disagrees with them as, just pick the name they want to call them, or quote unquote misinformation or disinformation. But this has reached now the highest levels of government, Jesse. I mean, this is why we filed the lawsuit against the Biden administration to expose not just these big tech platforms doing that themselves, which they receive the benefit of Section 230 protection, but now, which they shouldn't, but now you've got the federal government, big government, colluding with big tech to outsource its censorship, which should be illegal in this country, and they're doing it. And so we filed the lawsuit in May. We've made a lot of progress. The discovery has unfolded some shocking revelations, like weekly censorship meetings that the Biden administration was having with big tech partners, a special portal for them to get information to big tech to deplatform folks, text messages from high-ranking Facebook officials directly to the Surgeon General of the United States saying, hey, we took that person down, we took those comments down, what else can we do? I mean, this is shocking stuff. And then, of course, we had the 7-hour Fauci deposition last week, which revealed a lot, too.
You know what? Actually, let's begin with the Fauci stuff, because I'm dying to get to the big tech stuff, but I want to begin with Fauci just because of how much damage he's done. Tell me what you did, and why did you even get to be able to depose him? What happened? What'd you do?
Yeah, so in that lawsuit where we're alleging and now proving that big government colluded with big tech, a central focus of that lawsuit is that, during COVID, the government was working hand in hand with big tech to silence dissent. And of course, the main character in the middle of this play is Anthony Fauci. And it's really interesting because he has, tried to present himself as this all-knowing, I am the science guy. But in his deposition, there was a lot of I don't recalls. I think that was clear. But over 7 hours, we were able to, extract a lot of really important information. For example, the lab leak theory, which is absolutely credible, the most likely explanation for what actually happened. His agency was funding research at the Wuhan lab. And what you see in that deposition is that very early in February, when he becomes, aware of this as a story that's moving, they quickly move to discredit it. And only weeks later, anybody that utters it is, peddling disinformation. And guess what big tech does? Big tech then starts censoring people at the behest of people like Anthony Fauci and his communications team. Secondly, as far as the restrictions that were being in place, what should the response be? He sent Dr. Lane, his chief lieutenant, to China to observe what they were doing in China. He comes back raving about these Chinese extreme measures, these lockdowns that the communists were putting in place for their people. And so Fauci loved that idea, was certainly advocating for it. And then you've got masks. In February of 2020, a friend emails him and says, hey, should I wear a mask on the plane given everything that's going on with COVID? His response essentially is masks are completely ineffective. You don't need to wear a mask. That opinion is affirmed by studies that are presented to him as late as March 31st of 2020. 4 days later, Jesse, he comes out in a press conference essentially saying that, masks should be required, masks should be used. And then we've got, masking of school kids, COVID tyranny is born, lives are ruined. So this guy has been making it up as he goes along. This is about power and control. It's never been about the science, but it's really important part of this case because to prove essentially that Fauci, whatever Fauci says when he speaks, big tech will censor. And so that's part of why we got the deposition scheduled. The judge agreed to let us have it. We've got depositions coming of an FBI agent that's actually happening today on the Hunter Biden laptop story. Jen Psaki's coming in a couple weeks. So we are moving this thing along, and for the first time, getting a peek under the hood of this Orwellian machine that was created, this ministry of truth that ought to frighten every American.
Now, why, if I'm a Merrill Lynch, why would I sign up for something like this, Carol, when it's not as profitable? I mean, look, I don't care what people believe about the idiocy that is climate change. Oil's more profitable than solar panels. Why would I sign up for this idiocy?
Oh, you think it's not profitable, but this is a brand sparkling new industry, Jesse. And somebody did an analysis in Barron's, and they said there's $40 trillion in capital. 40 trillion, that's twice the GDP of the United States. That's basically at stake here. And that doesn't include the entire profiteering ecosystem, the people who consult on this and, extract fees. So for example, the financial services business, they may be selling mutual funds or exchange traded funds that have low fees, but now they're going to have a quote unquote ESG fund, and now they can slap that label on. So from their standpoint, there's a sort of scam element, and I'm not talking about any specific financial institution, I'm just talking generally about financial services, but there's sort of the scam fee extraction, rent extraction element to it. But at the highest levels, the BlackRocks of the world, and yes, BlackRock in the United States was the one who really started pushing this in the beginning of 2020, coming out of a lot of work that came from the UN, the World Economic Forum, and others. They want to be able to put their footprint and their power and their control. They control the most assets under management of anyone. So they can basically say, hey, board of directors, you're not doing what it is that we want you to do. And so we're going to say you're not ESG compliant. We're not going to vote for you. We're going to direct capital away from you. I mean, that is corporate fascism.
Okay, so what did the Department of Labor do?
So the one protection that we thought we had is that when people manage your money, including your pension managers, that they had a fiduciary duty to basically do what is best for you and to put your interests and particularly your financial interests ahead of their own interests, which makes sense. They're managing the money, your retirement money. It should be in your financial interest. A proposal was put in through the Biden administration's Department of Labor. It was quietly passed last week during the Thanksgiving week when they thought nobody would notice, that says, yeah, you know what? You don't need to do that if you're considering ESG factors and other sort of economic factors that we think are okay. And so basically they're telling you that they're no longer pursuing your best financial interests. They are pursuing business social credit at your expense.
It was passed.
By the way, this needs to be litigated. This was a rule proposed,
who passed it?
And it's a Department of Labor rule that they proposed, took comments for, and then pushed out there and finalized this rule. So this, by the way, you're in Congress, you're watching Jesse Kelly here, you need to get on this. You need to be calling your senators and your representatives, and this needs to be litigated. That's the fact that they could put something else, their own set of interests ahead of your fiduciary duty, ahead of your financial best interest, is insanity. And we are just walking down the path of killing our economic freedom. And this is just one small piece of the puzzle.
There is something, a gigantic concept that is very, very difficult for normal people to understand and accept. Very, very difficult. It won't be difficult for you, so I'm not talking about you, but your neighbor, your cousin, your brother, father, maybe they're Republicans, probably are, vote in every election. They don't understand. They may never understand, but they don't now currently understand that there are people who lead the West, virtually all of the Western leaders, business leaders, social media, politicians, entertainers, all of them. The leaders of the West, they're not kind of biased. They're not Democrat. He leans left. They are plotting the destruction of Western civilization. It's their whole goal, to loot Western civilization as they destroy it. Now, when you say that, if you were to say something like that to your neighbor, your Republican neighbor, what would he do? He'd probably go, oh gosh, here we go again. Take off the tinfoil hat. But it's true. And there's unlimited amounts of video evidence out there right in everyone's face that it's true. You see Western leaders, all of them, from I'm not just talking about America, although we can focus on that for a brief moment, all of them, they despise you. And they despise you for a reason. They despise you because you cling to your freedoms. They think your freedoms in the West are not something that it's their job to guard, right? Like they used to. Western leaders used to view themselves as the knights guarding freedom. Now, Western leaders view your freedoms, your love of your freedoms, as being such a hindrance. It holds everything back. They have these brilliant designs on what they want the world to look like. And if you, peasant, would stop clinging to those stupid freedoms, then they would be able to rule as the kings and queens they see themselves as and control everything and make the world a better place. Now, again, you say that to your mom. She votes Republican. She got a Trump flag in the yard. You say something like that to your mom, that's probably just too much for her to handle. Oh, be serious. Oh, honey, to get off the internet. But it's true. In fact, they tell you all the time. I want you to watch this little video of Joe Biden. Maybe you've already seen it, by the way. This little video of Joe Biden talking about guns. Short little video, and it revealed so much. Watch and pay attention.
The idea we still allow semi-automatic weapons to be purchased is sick. It's just sick. It has no social redeeming value. Zero, none. Not a single solitary rationale for.
Okay, maybe you've already seen that video, probably have, or at least you heard the audio of it, and maybe you rolled your eyes and said, oh, here we go, Democrats, gun grabbing again, probably going to try to pass a gun bill. If that was your first thought, it's not that you're wrong, you're right, but you missed the important part of it. We still allow? We still allow? That's not a king. That's not dictator Joe Biden. That's the President of the United States of America, a man charged with executing the laws of the nation. The Second Amendment's pretty clear, but Joe Biden doesn't look at anything in that way. And I'm not just singling him out. It's everyone in his administration. As I said, it's media, it's entertainment, it's all of them. You see, they are the kings and the queens, and they're just disgusted by you and your guns. I can't believe we allow these peasants to keep their guns. Don't we know they could rise up at any time? We still allow. And in case you're thinking, man, Jesse, you're being a little bit too over the top. It's not like these people really see themselves as kings and queens. I could argue, you know what? You're actually correct somewhat. Sometimes they don't see themselves as kings and queens. Oftentimes they see themselves as God.
Within, say, 200 years, to give a conservative estimate, there won't be Homo sapiens on planet Earth. It's not that we'll destroy ourselves in some calamity. Much more likely, we will use advanced technology, biotechnology, nanotechnology, direct brain-computer interfaces to upgrade Homo sapiens into different kinds of beings which are different from us, much more than we are different from Neanderthals. Beings which will have different bodies, different minds, different brains. So I think we are heading towards the upgrading of Homo sapiens into gods. The future of life belongs to intelligent design, but the designers, the intelligent designers, will not be some gods above the clouds. We are going to be the intelligent designers of the future of life in the universe.
Jesse, who's that? I never even heard of that person. That guy's name is Dr. Yuval Noah. He is a major person within the World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum is masterminding so much of this. The World Economic Forum, if that guy right there, if he picked up his phone right now and called Joe Biden would answer. If that guy picked up his phone and called the leaders of China, Germany, Spain, Venezuela, Virtually any world leader, if he picked up the phone and called right now, they would answer. That's not just some internet quack. That guy has the ear of the leaders of Western civilization. That's just him. Maybe you think I just cherry-picked something. So let's go to the head of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab.
What the fourth industrial revolution will lead to is a fusion of our physical, our digital, and our biological identities.
What does that look like? Fusion of our identities. And how are they going to do something like that? I know what you're probably thinking, Jesse. Don't be some lunatic. It's not like these people have a plan to put a chip in your brain and track you and control your mind.
Can you imagine that in 10 years when we are sitting here, we have an implant in our brains, and I can immediately feel, because you all will have implants, and we measure your brain waves, and I can immediately tell you how the people react, or I can feel how the people react to your answers. Is it imaginable?
There are much bigger things happening in the world than whatever you're going to see on the nightly news tonight.
Subscribe to the First TV today for instant access to exclusive specials and content you actually want to watch. Your support helps the First TV fuel the fight against those seeking to destroy our right to free speech. Simply visit thefirsttv.com/support to join the fight today.